Case number 547 on the calendar in the matter of Irwin versus Berlin. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Ladies, have a seat.
Miss Irwin, Mr. Berlin is your granddaughter's ex-boyfriend?
Right, Your Honor.
And you claim he owes you some money for babysitting for his daughter?
Yes, Your Honor, it was a copay.
Just a second. And then for some furniture that you purchased, which enabled him to get custody of his daughter from a previous relationship.
Yes, you're right.
Okay. Your granddaughter and the defendant have a child together?
Yes, Your Honor.
And in addition to that, sir, you have a child from another relationship?
That's correct.
The child from the other relationship is how old?
2.5.
And there came a time when you were contacted with regard to gaining custody of this child because the mother was a drug abuser?
Yes, ma'am.
When was that?
I believe it was November of 2004.
And at that time, where were you living?
At that time, I was living in a place in Portland, Oregon.
Who were you living with?
It was with Jennifer at the time.
Jennifer is Miss Irwin's granddaughter?
Correct.
And your child with her?
Correct.
When you were contacted about taking your daughter, did you at any time move in with Mrs. Irwin?
Basically, they moved in with us, and then we had to get a...
Who's they?
Ruth Irwin and also her son, Sean, moved in with us, and then we had to get a bigger place because I was basically getting custody of my daughter.
Now, what arrangement did you make with Mrs. Irwin as far as babysitting for your daughter while you worked? I assume you were working?
Correct.
Go ahead.
The arrangement was basically that she was going to watch my kid while I was at work, and at first it was okay, no payment involved. After a while, it became that she wanted to get paid for it, which I could see, it's understandable. So I went to the DHS office and...
Who's DHS?
Department of Human Resources.
So that you didn't earn enough to pay for child care, so you were getting state-subsidized care.
Correct.
And the agreement was, Miss Irwin, with the state, was that you were going to get $300 a month.
No, Your Honor.
How much a month?
The state did not pay me no $300 a month.
How much did they pay you?
The state paid me, on an average, $192 a month, and David was to match a copay, which he got extra food stamps to compensate.
Just a second, I'm speaking. You say he was to give you $169
yes.
a month? For how many months did you babysit?
4 months.
Did she babysit for 4 months?
This is correct.
Okay. In the contract that you had with the state, the contract said that you were to make a co-payment, right?
Right.
You did not make the co-payment.
Right, but that's because we had a verbal agreement to not pay.
Oh, well, I want to hear about the verbal agreement you had with Mrs. Irwin not to pay her $169 a month.
Okay. Basically, the verbal agreement was that I was going to use this money that I didn't pay her towards extra bills around the house.
What bills?
Such as water, sewage, power, rent.
So what you're telling me is you paid the water bill?
Part of it.
No, you're...
Of course you paid part of the water bill, sir. You were living there.
Correct.
I would expect you to pay part of the water bill. What else?
I paid cable, power.
Just a second. You paid it, the whole thing, or part of it?
Half of it, actually. She paid a quarter.
That's a lie.
Just a second.
That is a bull-faced lie, David.
Miss Irwin,
you knew
Miss Irwin, do you hear me?
Yeah. Yes, Your Honor, I do, but...
Good.
Will I get my opportunity to talk?
No, not unless I ask you a question. This is not a tea dance. You don't open up your mouth and start to talk to him unless I ask you a question. Do we understand each other, Miss Irwin?
Yes, I do.
Good. Now,
but this man's lying.
You want to walk out of here?
No, Your Honor.
So, you paid for what you minimally were supposed to pay for. Why would she agree that you not pay the $169 a month, Mr. Berlin, if you were paying only those portions of the bills that were rightfully yours?
Because, Your Honor, the verbal agreement we had in the beginning was that the $169 that I was to pay for the copay was only to be verbally not paid if she was to be paid by the state.
Mr. Berlin, that's a lot of double talk you just gave me.
Okay.
During the time that you were staying with Miss Irwin, did you have a substance abuse problem?
Not at all.
Not at all?
No.
Ever? Did you
That's
ever have
another
a...
lie.
Shh. Miss Irwin? Miss Irwin? Did you ever have a substance abuse problem, Mr. Berlin?
Nope. I drank alcohol every now and then, but that's it. Not a problem.
It was never a problem?
No, ma'am.
Okay. She babysat for you for 4 months times $169 equals $676, sir, because that was the agreement that you signed with the state. Now, let's get to the next part. The next part is Miss Irwin says that she bought furniture for your child not the child that you share with her grandchild, but for your child, because otherwise the state would not give you your child.
Right.
So she went out and she purchased furniture with an understanding that you would repay her.
May I say something, Your Honor?
Did she buy the furniture?
She did, but she
How
went
much
out
did
and
she
bought
pay
it.
for the furniture?
I don't know the exact
How much did you
amount.
pay for the furniture, Miss Irwin?
The total amount of the furniture. I'm sorry, Your Honor, I've got a cold and I've got a lot of paperwork here that we need to resolve because...
No, we don't have a lot of paperwork. All we have is, how much did you pay for the furniture, Miss Irwin?
Well, I am not a calculator. I did not add it all up. I listed each article. I bought a potty chair for the child from Walmart.
How much?
$7. A bed and dresser at a yard sale. The bed was $30. The dresser was $25. Very nice ones.
Go ahead.
A small television for her to watch cartoons on, which there was no cable put in that room for that child to be able to watch any television.
Miss Irwin, I asked you a question. I don't expect you to talk to him.
And $65 worth of clothes.
$127.
Right.
May I say something, Your Honor? She went out and purchased all that stuff without ever consulting me about that.
Did you need that stuff for your daughter to come and live with you?
Not necessarily, no.
What do you mean, not necessarily? She didn't need a bed?
Of course she needed a bed, but I could have got...
She didn't need a dresser?
Yes, ma'am.
They would not have allowed the child to move in with you. You have one parent who is neglecting the child. They're not going to allow a child to come and move in with you unless they see that you have the provisions for the child. Correct?
Correct.
So somebody was going to have to furnish the child with a bed and a dresser.
Right.
Who would that be?
I could have done it, Your Honor.
But you didn't.
I would have done it on my next paycheck.
So when you got your next paycheck, you should have given her back the money. She bought it. $127, very cheap, right?
Yes, Your Honor.
Good.
Your Honor, could I say one thing?
No.
Well, it's very important to know...
I don't want to hear you. So far, you're not losing.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
She's a very bitter woman, Your Honor.
Bitter. Well, then I wouldn't want to live
Your
with her.
Honor,
So
I
don't want to hear unless I ask you a question.
And later today,
I want you to listen to me carefully, sir. I ask questions, you give me answers, and then we both leave here happy, and you continue to adore me.
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Ruth Irwin says her granddaughter's ex-boyfriend owes for babysitting co-payments. Ruth says the state paid its share, and now David needs to pay his.
Miss Irwin, you're suing him for the furniture that you bought, the children's clothing that you bought, and the $169 times 4 that he was supposed to pay in a copay. So far, you're not losing. There's no need for me to hear you, except irritate me.
But I have some very important evidence here, Your Honor, that needs to be said. I threw this guy out of the house.
I'm not interested. You want to tell somebody about why you threw him out of the house? Go on Jerry Springer. This case involves two things. Look at me, stop looking at your papers. It involves two things and two things only. Whether he's responsible for the $169 for 4 months, the answer is yes. And whether he's responsible for the baby furniture, and the answer is yes. Now, you, sir, have 30 seconds or less to explain to me your counterclaim, which, if I get it correctly, you say because she threw you out of the house, uncross your arms, because she threw you out of the house, you lost custody of your daughter. So you want all kinds of pain, suffering, and anguish. Is that right?
Yes, that's correct.
Go to it.
Okay, well, first of all, she threw me out of the house because she claimed that I was depressed, so I went to go check it out. I called, and she says to never come back again. So basically, after that, I was basically homeless, and I had to say that I couldn't take care of my daughter because I was basically homeless. So because of that, she still has a lot of my property, such as this TV right here in this picture, which I have a receipt, which I bought a new one with.
Which anguish is that? In what category does the TV come under mental anguish?
Basically, she still has some of my property. That's what I'm trying to get at.
Well, is your lawsuit mental anguish, or is it your property?
It's both, Your Honor.
Well, let's start with the anguish.
Okay. Well, the anguish basically is she made me lose custody of my daughter.
No.
And
she didn't make you lose custody of your daughter. The state took the child away.
Well, she basically kicked me out. That's how I lost custody of my daughter. I would have kept having custody of my daughter if I stayed in that place.
She didn't want you there anymore.
I understand this, Your Honor, but I was living there, and there was no reason why I should have been kicked out in the first place.
Why do you think she kicked you out, Mr. Berlin?
Because she thought I had depression, which I did, because she made life very unbearable there for me.
So she thought you were suffering from depression. She didn't want you in the house anymore, and you acknowledge that you were suffering from depression, but you say you were suffering from depression because she was making life intolerable for you with the house.
Absolutely. She's a very bitter woman, Your Honor.
Bitter. Well, then I wouldn't want to live
Your
with her,
Honor,
sir.
I
I don't want to hear anything unless I ask you a question. Do you understand? Good. If she's making your life unbearable, you take your child and you move. That's
Yes.
what you do.
Yes, ma'am.
You
But-
don't sue for it.
Okay.
She's not responsible for keeping you in her house, nor is she responsible for the state taking your child away. Is the child now back with her mother?
Yes, ma'am.
So the state had an option of giving the child back to her mother, who was a drug abuser, or you, who was depressed. Is that right?
I believe so,
That
yes.
was the choice. That was some choice. All right, now let's get to the television set. May I see a photograph, please,
Yes,
of the
ma'am.
television set?
This is the actual picture of the television set right here, but the back of it is a receipt that I replaced it with a new television because, well, basically I gave up hope of receiving my television again.
Listen to me.
Yeah.
I want to see the bill where you purchased this television set.
I don't have that, Your Honor.
When did you purchase it?
It was October of 2003.
Okay. You have that television set, Miss Irwin?
No, I don't, Your
Where
Honor.
is
Yes,
it?
yes, you do.
No,
Don't.
I do not have the
Not
TV,
me.
Your Honor, because that was purchased between him and my granddaughter. They each shared that cost.
Just answer my question, Miss Irwin. Where is the television?
You know, it's in the living room.
Okay. Just a second. Where's your granddaughter?
In the living room, probably watching it. She paid for half of it.
Just a
No,
second.
she did not.
Just a second.
You got proof?
Miss Irwin, you don't understand what I'm saying to you, madam. Put the papers down. Don't speak to him.
He's a parasite, Your Honor.
Don't speak to him. And only answer my questions. Other than that, I don't want to hear you. Now, Mr. Berlin, you don't have a receipt for this television set indicating that you purchased it?
No, ma'am, I bought it.
You don't get it. You have to give her $803, Mr. Berlin. That is for 4 months of copay on the child care and your daughter's furniture, which she purchased, which she has no particular use for, with the understanding that the reason she purchased it was because the state was not going to permit you to retain or to gain custody of your 2-year-old unless you had a bed and a dresser, which she furnished and which, according to you, you were going to purchase with your next paycheck. And when you got your next paycheck, you should have given her the money back for it. That's the decision of the court. And for your mental anguish, you get a Zippo. Nada. You lost custody of your child because you were ill-equipped to take care
No,
of her.
Your
That's the
Honor.
only reason. And unless you're quiet, you're going to get nothing. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $803. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Got what you deserve, David.